Good morning, everybody. So thank you for following this third talk. So we are still in the context of the study of perturbations of integrable systems. In fact, today we will be concerned with examples of integrable systems which have some interest in relation with the so-called information geometry. So I did not talk about this subject before because I had the idea that we should first begin with some elementary examples of integrable systems to talk about more elaborated ones. But let us introduce this talk. So there are three parts. One is an introduction, and we will be concerned with the Toda lattice, and I will explain the history of the developments of the Toda lattice. This is a famous integrable Hamiltonian system, which was discovered by Toda in Japan. And in fact, this Toda lattice had been studied in particular by Nakamura from the viewpoint of the information geometry. And in my talk, by the way, this talk was part of a conference I gave in Les Ouches last year. No, not last year, two years ago, excuse me. I had the idea to include in the presentation the Picon systems. So I will explain you what are the Picon systems. It is another integrable system which is very interesting and linked with partial differential equations. Then I will present the information geometry, the Toda system and the Picon system. Then I will talk about the Jacobi flows and what we call string equations. And then I will finish the talk with an introduction to finite information geometry that I like very much. So this talk presents in parallel the open Toda lattice and the finite Picon system. I insist on open because there is also the periodic Toda lattice, and this approach concerns only, the approach I developed today, concerns only the open Toda lattice. For the moment, I don't see at all how it could cover also the periodic Toda lattice. There is, in the case of the open Toda lattice, a scattering theory. And it relates both with Jacobi flows, I will define it, and this scattering theory relies on the theorem of Stieltjes, a famous mathematician who was in Toulouse, part of his life. And we show that both of these systems linearize in the setting of information geometry. Okay, so let us begin with the Toda lattice. So I hope you see the equation. So this is a Hamiltonian system, which is of Newton type in the sense that you have a kinetic energy plus a potential. And you have the velocity, yk, and the position of mass points. They are all of same mass. And the potential energy is given in this form. It is a sum from k runs from 1 to n minus 1 of exponential of xk minus xk plus 1. And thus, if we write the Hamilton's equation, so remember my previous talks, these are equations which define a vector field x so that the interior product of the volume form or the symplectic form, I'm sorry, is equal to the minus the differential of h. And here we choose as a symplectic form the so-called Darboux canonical symplectic form. Omega is the sum of dxk wedge dyk. So by integration, by writing explicitly our system, we have that this equation xk dot is the exponential of xk minus 1 minus xk minus xk plus 1. And in fact, what means open? We call the finite open todalities when we put these formal boundary conditions. X0 is minus infinity and xn is plus infinity. So I will follow the presentation of a famous article of Jürgen Moser in 1975. And then I will quote this article, Bills, Sattinger, Zmijewski. They have made a series of fantastic articles on the Picon systems. And in one of these articles, actually, they concentrate also and discuss the open todalities. Okay, so in fact, it is known from the very first important work on the todalities by Flaška that in fact, to describe the motion, we can introduce new variables. So ak is 1/2 of exponential of xk minus xk plus 1 over 2. Bk is minus 1/2 of yk. So this ak is a function only of the positions, and this bk is some scaling for the velocities. And it is easy to check that the differential equation, which describes the motion of the todalities, of the particle, if you like, goes into this equation. Ak dot, sorry, the dot has disappeared here, apparently, is equal to ak times bk plus 1 minus bk. And bk dot is 2 times ak square minus ak minus 1 square. And the boundary conditions that we had in the previous slide, so x0 is minus infinity and xn is plus infinity, is translated now in a0 equal an equal to 0. Okay. Then what can we say about, so this was the discovery of Hermann Flaška. In fact, if we use matrix, so these equations can be set in a matrix equation. Flaška noted that the above system can be expressed in matrix form. L dot is a bracket of L with some matrix B, and L is a three-diagonal matrix Jacobi matrix. So you have non-zero element only on the diagonal and off diagonal, and it is symmetric. And you have this matrix B, which depends, which is also three-diagonal, but with anti-symmetric property. Okay, then this, once again, once you introduce this matrix L and this matrix B, then you can check that this dynamical system, which is equivalent to the motion of the tonal lattice with AK dot and BK dot, equal this and this, then it is equivalent to L dot is a bracket of B with L. So this type of matrix evolution is very famous. It is called Lax pair. There are many, many examples of motions of integrable systems, Hamiltonian integrable systems, which can be represented by Lax pairs. And actually, from that equation, it is easy to make the following observation. So maybe I can write a little bit on the blackboard to change our life. So I switch to the blackboard. So when you have a matrix equation, L dot is equal to the bracket B to L, then if you take some power of L, then you find easily that this LK L dot can be formed into a bracket, and from this expression you deduce that you have quantities phi k, which are the trace of L to the k, which are conserved by the flow. Okay, so in fact, in general, maybe you don't get interesting quantities. Maybe if you get here some quantity which is 0, then you will not deduce anything. But in many examples in an integrable system, you get actually functions which are essentially generically independent. So you get the n constant of motions. In fact, this is already we are not far of proving the integrability, I would say. What is missing? So I should write also an important definition that I have not yet. So you think I can erase now? It's a little bit quick, no? Or material, it's okay. So when we have a Hamiltonian system, this is an important definition. I will call this Liouville-Arnold integrability. So let H omega be a Hamiltonian system so omega is a symplectic form. And H is a function. Let us say that we work on some variety V or an open set of R to M. So the symplectic form, often it is, in our example, this two forms, the sum for k equal 1 to m of dxk dyk. And in fact, in general, it is some form which is closed and which is of rank M. In fact, there is a theorem which says, the Darboux theorem, which says that locally there exists always a system of coordinates so that this omega can be written in this way. Okay, this is the setting in general, and we say that H is integrable if there are M functions, phi1, phi n, we are generically independent and so that the Poisson bracket of the phi j with phi I are equal to 0. So in other terms, you can define also the Hamiltonian flows for the functions phi1, phi m, and these flows, you assume that they commute. Okay, so when you have a Lax pair in dimension m, then in fact, in good situations, you can deduce that you have first integrals, which are generically independent. In fact, it is an integrable system in the Liouville-Arnold sense if these functions generate commuting Hamiltonian systems. Okay, so I switch back to the text. Alors, ok. Non, qu'est-ce que j'ai fait? Okay. And now let me say a few words about the Picon systems. Okay. Well, I suppose that you know integrable PDEs like Korteweg-De Vries equations. You know that they display very interesting behaviors of solitons, which are special solutions, which interact in a special way with some conservation laws. And in fact, you have often in nature kind of breakdown of regularity. And this was a prime motivation in the search of alternative models, alternative to KBV, for nonlinear dispersive waves. And in 1993, Kamasa and Holm used the scaling and approximate Hamiltonian, which is formally integrable by the method of inverse scattering. This strongly nonlinear equation, the equation, is given by this equation, PD equation. It's ut is equal to -1 for uxxt plus 3 over 2 u square x minus 1 over 8 u square xx minus 1 for uxx equals 0. And they discovered that these so-called Kamasa-Holm equation supports solutions which are dubbed Picons, and they are continuous but only piecewise analytic. So the shape of the profile is called Picon because there is a kind of peak or in this direction on this. So I refer constantly to a list of articles on this subject by Bills, Sattinger, and Śmigielski. And this one is 2000. And in fact, motivated by the form of traveling wave solutions of their equation, Kamasa and Holm proposed solutions of this form, solutions of the partial differential equation called Kamasa-Holm. Ux of t is the sum, 1/2 of the sum from j is 1 to m of mj of t times exponential -2 absolute value of x minus fj of t. So you see this function, due to the absolute value, is continuous but not C1. And in fact, you plug in the equation, and you have to check that in order to get a solution, the Kamasa-Holm equation can be seen as a compatibility condition between two equations, mt plus umx plus nux equals 0, where 2m is for u minus uxx. So in the following, m will describe a discrete measure with weights mj and the Dirac measure at the point xj. And the point x1, x2, xn are supposed to be distinct on the line. The two equations above are, of course, readily interpreted in the sense of distributions. You take the derivative in the sense of distribution. So what we can obtain, then it is easy to check that this is a Hamiltonian system. It is solution of a Hamiltonian equation. And the equation is for the flow is uj dot is dh over dmj, which is u of xj, and nj dot is minus dh over dxj, and it is minus the average, if you like, of uxxj times nj. Average being this, you take ux at xj minus plus ux at hj plus over 2. So the solution, you get this Hamiltonian system, and with the energy h, which is in fact 1/4 of the sum of mj mk exponential of -2 xj minus xk, and it is quite nice to recover that this is actually the quadratic Hamiltonian, which is very natural. Here you have, in some sense, some potential energy, and here is the kinetic energy. So it is integral minus infinity to plus infinity of u squared plus 1/4 of ux squared dx. Okay, it is of course related to the norm in the Sobolev space. Okay, so this is enough for this short introduction to Toda lattice and Picon system, and then we will understand more the link that I developed in relation with the information geometry in the next paragraphs. Okay. It is now a good time to give more information on information geometry. It seems that the first time the name information geometry was used is in Amari, Kurata, and Nagaoka, and in an article called Information Geometry of Boltzmann Machines, 1992. Amari and Nagaoka discovered that smooth families of probability distributions admit dual connections as their natural structure. So I say, I don't enter too much in the details, but let me explain a little bit about dual connections. So, you know, I believe the Riemann manifolds, and you have associated to Riemann manifold, you have, of course, the Riemann metric, and you have a connection in the sense of Kosul are related to this Riemannian metric, which is called the Levi-Civita connection. And in fact, here they discover geometric situations where you have not only this Levi-Civita connection, but actually a segment of different connections. And associated to these connections, the amazing aspect, which that in fact there are two coordinate systems on the manifold, where you can linearize actually both the connections. So it seems to be a very drastic condition, and that there was a huge chance to find example. But they found the example in families of probability distributions. And after actually the subject grows, and it seems that you have a lot of situations where you have this setting. And this is called now information geometry. And in particular, it aims at studying the information theory from the viewpoint of dual connections. This has linked a strong link with from the viewpoint of theoretical differential manifolds. The theory of dually affine structure turns out to be an analog of Keller geometry in the real, as opposed to a complex setting. And this viewpoint underlines a book of Shima, Geometry of Hessian Manifolds, and where you can see and discover the early influence of Jean-Louis Kosul and Jacques Weil. Okay, so in a series of articles, Nakamura uncovered the linearization of the todal lattice in the flat coordinates associated to a Hessian manifold. The todal lattice, so dynamical system of Newtonian type, and the Picon systems, which is more a geodesic flow, they look a priori quite different. And tough in this talk, I will explain that the Picon and T-Picon system also linearize in the flat coordinates of a Hessian manifold. So Hessian manifold means that you have these dual structures. It is another name for the geometry of information, if you like. Okay. So I think I can go to the second part and talk about Jacobi flows. Okay, so we have seen already Jacobi matrix. The Jacobi matrix is a matrix which is tri-diagonal, and off diagonal you have A1, A2, AN minus 1, and I'm going to assume that these coefficients AJ are positive. Then the eigenvalues of this Jacobi matrix are simple. Why? Because in fact, when you write the equation for for an eigenvalue lambda and an eigenvector, you see that you have a recurrence relation and a determination of Vj plus 1 from Vj. And so up to a scalar, you find only a single vector. So all eigenvalues are simple. Now I am going to consider a family of isospectral flow of J. And this is given by a lax matrix. Now it is JB. And I consider the case where B is symmetric. Okay. No, I am sorry. Is anti-symmetric. So it's symmetric. Okay. So in fact, denote phi a function of J, and B of J a skew-symmetric matrix, so that B minus phi J is lower triangular. So you have this situation. Then this defines a Jacobi flow by the lax equation. J dot is the bracket of J with Bj. Note that in fact, along the Jacobi flow, you have this equation. Aj dot is phi j jj minus phi j j plus 1 aj. And it is important to check that it preserves the positivity condition aj is positive. So the lax pair defined for the total lattice via the Fleischer transform is an example of Jacobi flow associated to phi of j is equal to j. Okay, so in fact, once you have this total lattice, for instance, you have also the first quantities, first integrals, and you have the flow which generate the motion with the Hamiltonian phi j. And in fact, these motions, they are all, in fact, of the type of Jacobi matrix evolution. Okay, so we can assume by eventually replacing J by J minus lambda I that the eigenvalues of J are ordered in this way. And in fact, one of the eigenvalue is equal to 0. And we know already that this unique, after this scaling, I would say, then you have a unique vector so that J of V is equal to 0 and with the norm equal to 1. And you can also scale in such a way that Vn is strictly positive. So this is called the normalized null vector. Now, there is an associated Weyl function, which is defined by W of lambda is 1 over Vn squared times lambda I minus j Ln. And this W of lambda is the sum from j is 1 to n of Cj over lambda minus lambda j, where Cj is 1 over Vn squared Ej Ln. And this Ej is a spectral projection to the eigenvector corresponding to the eigenvalue lambda j. So there is a lemma, essential lemma for the scattering, the scattering setting with the Jacobi matrices. So once you have introduced this normalized null vector, it is possible to check that the entries of the normalized null vector of a normalized Jacobi matrix are positive. And this is a rather classical proof. If you consider d0 equal 1 and dk be the k cross k upper principal minor of J, expanding this minor along the last row and the last column, you find this expression dk is bk dk minus 1 minus ak minus 1 squared dk minus 2 with a0 equal to 0. And we claim that you have this, when you look at the minor, they have alternated sign. By assumption, we have dn equal to 0. Since J is negative semi-definite, you have minus 1 to the k dk positive or null. Suppose that k minus 1 is the first index for which dk would be equal to 0. Then if k minus 1 is less than n, dk minus 2 and dk will have opposite sign because you have this term which vanish. So this is a contradiction. So now define the vector w by w1 is 1, wk is minus 1, k minus 1, dk minus 1 over a1 and so on, ak minus 1. It follows that ak w plus wk plus 1 is minus bk wk minus ak minus 1 wk minus 1 is 0. So these equations are equivalent to jw equals 0. Each wj is positive, thus the normalized null vector has positive entries. There is a contradiction here, so this implies that this V has positive entries. Okay, now theorem. Consider the Jacobi flow. Assume that phi of 0 is 0. Then you have an evolution of the residues of the Weil functions, Cj dot. They evolve linearly. Cj dot is 2 phi lambda j Cj. So remember that I have to go back. You have this function w of lambda, which is the sum of Cj over lambda minus lambda j. So if you want to see the time evolution of this, then it will be the time evolution of the residue of the Weil function. Now we consider these variables. Rj is aj and n. So look again at this equation here. Cj dot, no, Cj. Then you find that Rj dot, oops, sorry, is 2 phi j, 2 phi lambda j Rj minus 2 phi j Ln Rj. So the matrix entries are proportional to the Cj and they sum up toInn equal 1. So it follows that Rj of t is as a time evolution which is Rj of 0 exponential of 2 phi lambda j over the sum from k equals 0 to n of Rk of 0 exponential of 2 phi lambda k t. So you have the time evolution of the solution, which is given explicitly by some simple equation. This was first proved by Moser for phi of lambda equal to lambda, and phi of lambda equal to lambda squared. And phi of lambda is lambda, correspond to the toda, the flow of the toda lattice. And then you have this higher order, in some sense, constant of motion. And the second one, for instance, it evolves along a flow which has been studied before by Katz and Pierre van Merwijk. So Nakamura, when he saw this formula, he realized that it looks very much like the time evolution of the gradient flow, which is associated to the information geometry. And in fact, he also uncovered a link with the so-called average avian learning equation. So I will not in this talk explain the proof of Nakamura, and I will in fact focus on a similar demonstration for the possibility of similar demonstration for Dicon systems. This average avian learning equation, of course, there is a strong motivation to look at this type of things because it relates to neuron networks. Okay, so we started with an evolution with variables AJ and BJ. And in fact, we transformed by the relations into a collection lambda J Cj of the eigenvalues and of the residues of the Weyl function. Actually, this is or equivalently the lambda J Rj, but here with the constraint sigma of Rj equal to 1. So these are called the scattering data, in fact. In fact, you see, you have these new variables. Lambda J is the constant of the motion. The eigenvalues of the Lax matrix are conserved. The Cj have a linear evolution. Okay, so it's natural to pose the problem of inverse scattering. Namely, given the lambda J and Cj that you can integrate explicitly, how can you compute from this the initial data evolution of coordinates AJ and BJ? And it is one of the fascinating aspects of the first article of Moser, the Moser article in 1975. In fact, can be solved by a theorem, a classical theorem of Stieltjes, a beautiful theorem of Stieltjes. I will explain a little bit at some point of the talk. Okay. Now let me go on with the Dicon systems. You have seen, you remember that it is natural to describe it in terms of what we call a discrete string. So by this we mean a sum of mass, a collection of masses m1, mn minus 1, which are located at points y1, y2, yn minus 1. It was x1, x2, xn minus 1 previously, but in fact we can change variables in such a way that they lie in the interval 0 plus 1. So the string is a discrete measure, sum of Dirac measure, at the point y0 is 0, y1 and yn minus 1, yn equal to 1. And now we have the associated string problem, which is to determine, I follow the presentation okay, lost. It's Settinger and Smijewski. So. Okay. So we have to solve this equation, d square of u. This is the derivative relative to y, is lambda mu with the boundary conditions, u of 0 is 0, of 1 is 0. So this function u is continuous piecewise linear, and the derivatives have jumped only at the point yj. Okay, so if we set y0 is 0, yn is 1, lj is yj minus 1, qj is u of yj. Note that L1 plus Ln is 1. The string problem is finding the slopes Pj so that Qj minus 1 is Lj Pj, Pj plus 1 minus Pj is lambda Lj Qj, and Q0 equal Qn equals 0. This is actually equivalent to the matrix problem for the vector slopes P. NP is lambda LP, where L is diagonal with L1, Ln on the diagonal, and with the matrix, a Jacobi matrix, M, where you have this on the diagonal, and off diagonal you have, in fact, 1 over mj, except for this, and this is a boundary condition. 1 over m0 is 1 over mn is 0. Okay. This problem is equivalent to the Jacobi spectral problem. If we change matrices in this way, so first the vector P is replaced by U with N1 half P, and J is replaced by N, or in the usual notations for Jacobi matrix, AJ is JJ, J plus 1, is 1 over mj square root of Lj, Lj plus 1, and Bj is JJJ, is this expression. So theorem to any normalized Jacobi matrix J is associated a unique discrete string problem, Lm, so that we have this link between J and N. Okay, so proof. The n-1 frequencies of the string problem are negative, and the remaining eigenvalue is lambda equals 0 with this eigenvector. Conversely, suppose that J is a normalized Jacobi matrix with normalized null vector. By previous lemma, the entries of V are positive. So we may define Lj by square root of Lj is Vj. Since the norm of V is 1, the Lj sum up to 1. The Nj are defined then by Aj is equal to this. Since V is annihilated by J, we have this relation, and we get from that the expression of Bj. And the latter Lj Mj maps into the given matrix J. So this is the way we solve, in some sense, the inverse scattering problem for the Picot. So we use Qj minus 1 is Lj Pj, and Pj plus 1 minus Pj is lambda Mj Qj to determine the polynomial Qj and Pj recursively. So the associated Weil function of the string problem is defined in this way. And the theorem is that this Weil function of the string problem coincides with the Weil functions of the associated Jacobi matrix that we defined previously. And this is the proof. The construction of the Pj and Qj is arranged so that this n-1 entries, the first n-1 entries of this matrix vanish. And to find the last entries, we have to write this. So that this is this vector is this, and we find that Pn over lambda Qn is equal to lambda to 1 over ln lambda I minus j ln minus 1. This is the formula that we had previously. And this ends the proof with ln equal to bn squared. Okay, so now a few words about the finite information geometry. This is a very interesting special examples of information geometry. Information geometry on a finite set. So it's really very nice that it is really not a trivial thing. Maybe I switch a little bit to a reference that I would like to quote. I like very much. It is the only place where I have seen this reference to the discrete information geometry. It is a great, very interesting book by Jost, Ong-Wang Lei, and Schwarzhofer. It is Information Geometry, Springer, 2017. And maybe there is even a more recent edition. Okay, so I follow their lines for this part. Let I be a finite set. We consider the algebra of real function on a finite set. There is a canonical basis, AI, so that AI of j is delta ij, and every function in the algebra of real functions on this finite set can be written as a sum of this fi ei, with fi equal to f of I. So on this space, you can consider linear forms on this. This is a vector space. So you can consider linear forms, and they are interpreted as a sign measure on I. So this is not positive measures, they have signs. If we consider the set of dual forms S of I, then we have some subclass here. This is if the sum of the fi is equal to 1, then you have probability measures. If all the coefficients fi are different of 0, either for m plus or p plus, then you say that you are in m plus or p plus. And then you may fix S of I is okay, and you from this you can introduce a kind of tangent bundle. So the tangent bundle to S of I is a product of S of identified to the product of S of I, S of I. The cotangent bundle is the same as S of I cross F of I. The tangent bundle to M plus is this, tangent bundle, cotangent bundle is this, and these are the tangent and cotangent bundle for the probability sets. Once again, for probability measures, you assume that the sum of the fi is equal to 1. So there is a natural S square product on F of I. It is this bracket Fj mu, which is mu computed on the product Fj. So this is clearly a quadratic form. And given two vectors A, so mu A, P is mu B of this tangent space, then you define this. This is a famous metric, which is a Fisher metric. And it's one of the important ingredients when you have this geometry of information. So this Fisher metric J at the point mu on the fiber of the cotangent bundle of the tangent bundle, J mu of AB is this expression mu of AB. So this Fisher metric was introduced as a Riemannian metric actually by Rao. So we should say better Fisher-Rao instead of Fisher. Fisher, it was much long time ago, in fact. He was a statistician, was very interested by Darwin theory, in fact. So, this is very relevant for estimation theory with statistics, and also appear in mathematical population genetics. This one, for the discrete version, if you like, it is also known in biology as the Shashahani metric. So the Fisher metric, as any Riemann metric, induces a bundle is isomorphism between the tangent and the cotangent bundle. It maps linear forms to functions, and this bundle isomorphism, and it represents a simple version of what we call the Radon-Nikodym derivative with respect to mu. This Fisher metric defines this tensor here and its inverse, and in fact you see that it is nothing else than the covariance matrix of the probability measure. Okay, so the point is that there is a kind of universal property for what I presented. It seems, it is sure even that Kolmogorov gave a series of lectures at the Institut Henri Poincaré in 1955, where he discussed what should be natural differential structure for statistics. And in fact, I am not sure that there are publications after this series of talks. But this initiated the research of Shevtsov 10 years ago, 10 years after, I'm sorry, and with an independent contribution of Morse and Saxe-Teder. At that time, the notion of category was popular, and Shevtsov invented the category of statistical model. So to define a category, you need to have the objects and the arrows. So the objects are the statistical models M, such that there exists an immersion of M to this discrete M plus of I here, and in such a way that you have you can write it psi goes to sum of phi I psi, and so these are the objects, and the arrows which goes from one object to another object. They are called Markov kernels. They have been introduced, in fact, discussed by Markov, the famous probability mathematician. So given two non-empty sets, I and I prime, a Markov kernel can be defined in this way. So you have an application of the finite set I to the probability set of I prime, and it does this property. So information geometry is a kind of differential geometry treatment of statistical models, even in this setting. So particular examples of Markov kernel are given in terms of maps like this, and each Markov kernel induces a corresponding map between probability distributions. So you have a notion of Markov kernel, which is congruent in that case, if there is a partition AI which satisfies this condition. So if a Markov kernel, to finish the story, sorry. So the arrows, are the Markov kernels. Huh? The objects are statistical models, and the arrows are Markov kernel. And okay, if the Markov kernel is congruent, you have differential maps from P plus I to P plus I, which is defined like this. And it is possible to define the Fisher metric on M, if we have a statistical model, by pulling back the Fisher metric on N plus of I. And this yields this. And the main theorem is this. It's a kind of universal property of the Fisher metric. Shensov, 1972. If we assign to each non-empty and finite set I a metric, if for all congruent Markov kernel we have this, then there exists a constant so that this metric is proportional to the Fisher metric. So this shows a kind of universality of the Fisher metric. Okay. Now let us enter a little bit more on the geometry of information for finite sets. So we have the tangent bundle and cotangent bundle. They are Cartesian product. So we have natural parallel transport. So one is like this, and the other is like this. With the bundle isomorphism, no, sorry, one is this parallel transport, and the other one is this one. So with the bundle isomorphism induced by the Fisher metric, we can construct a second parallel transport. So you have two parallel transport. And in fact, a parallel transport for a manifold is the same as a connection. Huh? So you have a family of two connections. Yes, this is what is written now. These parallel transports are in fact associated with affine connections noted respectively nabla M and nabla E, and the corresponding maximal M and E geodesic are given by this formula, gamma M here and gamma E here. And now, if you look, okay, so this finish what I wanted to explain for finite information geometry. But the point now is that if we look at the corresponding M geodesic, then you E geodesic, sorry. Then you find after some computation this formula, and in fact this is the link that we discover, which works also for the Picon system. When you look at the evolution of the Picon by this kind of sign measures. Okay, so the link with the total lattice and the geodesics can now be seen with this equation, which is here. Okay, so I would like to quote several articles. So this is a famous article of Jürgen Moser, finitely many mass points on the line under the influence of an exponential potential, which is a TODA. This, what I explained, has certainly something to do, and you will see more in the second part of my talk, with completely integrable gradient flows, because in all these type of dynamics, including, of course, the total lattice, in fact, you have not invariant tori. They are integrable, but you have not invariant tori. And the flow, which is in restriction to the space, to the level sets of the first integral, is a gradient flow. So this is a situation which has been discovered by Roger Broquet and discussed a lot with Anthony Bloch and Tudor Ratu. This is very important, and all these flows are of this class. This is the article of the series of articles of Richard Bills, David Sattinger, and Jacek Smiejewski, multiplicons and the classical moment problem, key constraints and the finite modalities, and other contributions. This is a string density problem of the Kamasarum equation. This is that I used in a part of my talk, of course. And now there is this book by Amari, Information Geometry and its Application. These are the references of Nakamura. And actually, Nakamura, for those who are interested in Soliton theory, in fact, Nakamura actually was the first to prove the existence of a tau function for the finite Toda molecule. And this is based on his presentation using information geometry. This is a work with Kodama, Nakamura and Kodama, and where they discuss the fact that this tau function is positive. This is a essential property. This is a book by Shima, which is really a book of purely of differential geometry. But in some part of his book, he mentions this, also these contributions to statistics. And this is the book I already quoted. Okay. So I propose to stop just for 1 or 2 minutes, just to switch to another series of transparent. And we will change our subject. Okay, so I do it. Okay, so I have to write. I have stop to. Okay, so I will like to present now a work with Daisuke Tamara, information geometry and Hamiltonian systems on mini groups. Okay, so it is in the same kind of subject in some sense, the link between integrable Hamiltonian systems and information geometry. But this time, we will proceed with not with finite information geometry, but it will be a context more linked with Lie groups. Introduction. So, some brief overview about information geometry and Hamiltonian systems. Okay, so we have the Fisher-Rao metric and the Amari-Chensov cubic tensor. I have already defined the Fisher-Rao metric, but not yet the cubic Amari-Chensov cubic tensor. And these data brought important differential geometric studies in information geometry. For dually flat manifolds, which can be also formulated as the Hessian geometry initiated by Kosul, the alpha geodesics play a very important role, as pointed out by Amari. And then we quote again Nakamura, who studied the relations between information geometry and complete integrable Hamiltonian system. Okay, the aim of this present talk is to consider Hamiltonian system, and we believe that they would bring further interesting perspectives in information geometry. And here we further investigate the relation between information geometry and natural Hamiltonian. You will see it is a natural Hamiltonian system. They are perhaps completely integrable, maybe, but you will see why we believe that this is so. And in fact, we focus in a special setting of information geometry which is also called transformation models. And this has been introduced by Barndorf and Nielsen. There are some previous work which seems connected to what we did by Muriel Casalis. She's a colleague in Toulouse. And also this type of models, transformation models, have been discussed in the textbook by Amare Nagaoka. Okay, the models give rise to Hamiltonian system over Lie groups, about which many interesting aspects may be discovered. Okay, so this part of the talk will be divided into first a general framework of transformation models, and then a specific case with a sample space being a Lie group. Okay, so transformation models. So we want to consider a situation where we have a smooth manifold of samples, and we have a Lie group which acts smoothly on M from the right or from the left. So we choose the left here. And we assume we have an invariant volume element on M. So a volume element of M which is invariant with respect to the group action. And we assume this is the peculiarity of the geometry of information. We consider probability density function, rho, which is defined on J cross M and parameterized by elements in J. And we assume that for all J in the Lie group, the integral of rho Jx d volume M of X is equal to 1. So it's their probability density. We assume, of course, that this is positive for all Jx. And you have this covariance property here, that rho on J dot H, this is a product in the Lie group, is rho of J H acting on X. So this is the action of the Lie group on the space M. Okay. So for F function on M, we can consider the expectation with respect to this probability measure. This is a smooth function in J. Necessarily, this is this E of the average value is of 1, the function constant equal to 1 is equal to 1. And we denote J script in the Lie algebra of J. For X in J script, we consider the induced. So given an element of the Lie algebra, there is, of course, an induced vector field on the manifold Xn, and which is described at J and X by this formula. And we have also this is the left invariant vector field on J induced by X, evaluated at the point J in the group, in the Lie group. Okay, so first property, which is easy to check, that this average of Xn log of rho is equal to 0. And we have this also this property that the averaging of Xm acting on log of rho times Ym acting on log of rho is minus E Xm acting on Ym log of rho. And so this is constant with respect to J in capital G. And now for X, G, Y in the Lie algebra, So we can define what we call the Fisher-Rao bilinear form on the Lie algebra. And it is defined with this probability density, as usually it is done for the Fisher-Rao type of reconstruction. Okay. The corresponding left invariant 0-2 tensor is called the Fisher-Rao metric. It is in general semi-definite. It is not necessarily definite. And in some sense, we can continue the next approximation in some sense. Once we have this Fisher-Rao metric, then we can, so you can introduce naturally as a three tensor Cx, Yz by this formula. It is averaging of xm log of rho, ym log of rho, zm log of rho, and it is also given by this expression. And this is called usually the Amari-Shensov cubic tensor. So these are the two data which look to be important in the geometry information. First, this Fisher-Rao metric and this Amari-Shensov cubic tensor. Okay. So in fact, we can consider a Lie subgroup H of J, and we have the associated Lie algebra, which is there, and we have a direct sum decomposition, and in fact, sometimes we can find naturally a Lie subgroup so that in fact the Fisher-Rao bilinear form becomes definite, so that we have really a Riemannian metric. Okay, if H is compact, then J over X, H is reductive in the sense of Nomizu, and the Fisher-Rao bilinear form induce a J invariant Riemannian metric on J over H. And there is a very beautiful theorem by Nomizu. He was able to compute the Levi-Civita connection nabla, which is induced by the metric. And this is the expression that it has. So it has been important for us for some computations. Okay. We will see an example where the Fisher-Rao is induce a definite metric on J over H for a compact semi-simple Lie group and a Cartan subgroup with a concrete family of probability density. Okay, so we can define, as usual in this situation, with the Fisher-Rao metric and the Amari-Shensov tensor, we can define an alpha connection by this explicit formula. Alpha runs between 1 and -1, some segment. So now we are interested in a very special situation. We are interested in the case where actually the manifold M is also equal to J. And in that case, then we have interesting Hamiltonian systems, which are of Euler-Arnold type, I would say, but which are now associated to the Fisher metric. And so it is very interesting as a mine of new examples for studying integral systems. Okay, so we assume that M is equal to J. So we assume also that it is compact, semi-simple, with so it has a Killing form K, R measure, Cartan subalgebra. So in fact, if we look at the total lattice equation, they look very similar to the family of examples that we have discovered. And in fact, visiting this key contribution of Bloch, Brockett, and Tudor ratio, in fact, as I said, they have a gradient, and this is a gradient of a kind of cost function. And it is natural for us to consider the same type of cost function. So it's very nice because, in fact, in some sense, it is also natural in the geometry of information to consider this probability measure of special types, which are so-called exponential types. So we take it. So it depends on some constant. So C is a constant, which is a scaling, so that the integral is equal to 1. And here it depends of K. So this function f has the form of, so it depends of a parameter q and n, another parameter, depends of two parameters, and it is of this form, which is a function of theta, where theta is an element of the group, kappa is the killing form, and q and n are two fixed elements in the Lie algebra. So C is the normalization constant. So we have actually now this bilinear form in XY, and in fact this n prime can be computed as a function of n. So we assume that q and n prime belongs to the Cartan algebra. Okay, so we have the Cartan subgroup. The Fisher-Rao bilinear form is invariant with respect to the adjoint action. And it induces a Fisher-Rao Riemannian metric on the adjoint orbit this time. And we can look at the geodesic equation. So, in fact, it can be formulated for the Euler-Poincaré reduction with the Lagrangian function L of x, which is here. This is regarded as a left-hand invariant function on the space Tj, J cross G, the Lie algebra J. Okay, so we can compute, and in fact, we discover that we are interested in the geodesic flow for this metric, and we want to write the Euler-Poincaré equation for this geodesic flow. And this is the Euler equation that we obtain. X dot is C bracket of X with the bracket of the bracket XQ with n prime. So it's of course quadratic in X. And in fact, it depends of many parameters. And so in fact, we can compute for some examples, and we expect that there are a lot of cases where it is integrable. In fact, what is interesting here in this expression 1 is that it appears a double bracket. So this is also one of the ingredients, one of the key properties of the family of systems which have been discovered and studied by Bloch, Brockett, and ratio. Okay, so note the Lagrangian L is invariant with respect to the right action by H, and the vector field can be restricted to M. So the restriction coincides with nabla X in the paragraph 2. Thus, this Euler Poincaré equation can be restricted to the orbit J over H, and it coincides with the tangential part of the geodesic equation on O with respect to the Fischer-Rao-Riemannian method. This theorem is formulated as a Lagrangian system, but we can also formulate it in the Hamiltonian framework. This is a computation where we find an integral system. This is the example, the simplest example we could think of. This is SO3, the geodesic flow in SO3. And these are the two elements in the Cartan algebra. So the Fischer-Rao metric is defined on S squared, which is SO3 over H. And thus the Euler-Poincaré equation can be explicitly computed. And this is actually an Euler-Arnold equation for a symmetric free rigid body. So this is, of course, an integral system, this example. So this talk is briefly summarized as follows. So paragraph 2, we have reviewed the general framework of transformation models. Paragraph 3, we have considered a complete family of probability density functions associated with the cost function f, earlier studied in BBR, to investigate the generalized total lattice equation expressed as a gradient flow by the bracket double bracket equation. We have rather considered the information geometry in relation to the probability density functions arising from the same function. Some perspectives. Some perspectives of the Euler-Poincaré equation are as follows. So, as I said, the Euler-Poincaré equation is similar to the bracket double bracket equation and to Euler-Arnold equation for generalized free rigid body dynamics. So, the integrability, which was studied by Michenko and Fomenko. So the integrability of one should be considered. The family, in general, the family of examples in Michenko-Fomenko are integrable, and they are very classic, interesting integral systems. Okay, so of course, the stability of equilibria should be also investigated. And actually, there is a possible comparison of the geodesic flow with Souriau thermodynamical formulation of information geometry and the associated Euler-Poincaré equation. So this has been also discussed by Barbaresco and François-Guy Balmas. And it links also to a recent article of Charles-Michel Marbre on Gibbs states of mechanical systems with symmetries. Let me discuss a little bit more the references which are here. So once again, Amari Naglioka, I, Yost, Onguangle, Schaffer. So this was published in Entropy, this by Frédéric Barbaresco and François-Guy Balmas. This is a reference to Bandorf and Nielsen and his co-workers. The article block bracket ratio. Muriel Casalis, the work I mentioned for exponential families. It seems that Maurice Fréchet also has considered this Fischer metric. This is a special issue, very important, were an article, a course given by Jean-Louis Cossul has been published quite recently, and it is linked with affine differential geometry and Hessian geometry. This is a classical article of Cossul for the domain Born homogène and the reference to MAR. Yeah, more. So Michenko-Fomenko, Euler equation on finite dimensional Lie groups. These are 3 articles of Nakamura that I already quote. This is the reference of Nomizu, so it's a computation done in 1954. And that's all. Okay. So, in fact, maybe I can stop at this point today. Okay? Is it okay? Because next we'll revisit other type of subjects, so maybe it's a good time to stop. I invite you to pose questions if you want. So what should I do? Arrêter de partager, c'est ça? Oui. Oui. Okay, so don't hesitate if you have questions, comments, and I don't know if Daisuke is in line, in fact.
Yes, he is.
He is, okay. Okay, so Daisuke, in fact, we will send you what you asked yesterday.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Maybe we will send in 2 steps. So one related to the talk yesterday, and then, okay. So, are there questions, comments, or? So maybe tomorrow I will maybe revisit more systematically the notion of integrable Hamiltonian systems, because I did not enter in discussions of invariant tori on action angle coordinates. So maybe I will discuss tomorrow in the first talk. Yes, and I will go to other examples. Which are linked with nice algebraic geometry constructions. Okay, so no comments, we stop. Thank you very much for following this talk, and see you tomorrow.